It's your girl, the Grown Woman Gamer, and I'm here today with Sister Fate.
Hey, how you doing?
Today, Sister Fate is joining me to talk about this conversation that a lot of people are having around Dwayne Wade and his transgender child, Zaya. I'm just going to start by talking a little bit about what's happened and then some of the color commentary that I've heard, and we're just going to discuss our thoughts and some of the things that really have stood out to both of us. So, a couple of days ago, Dwayne Wade went on the Ellen show and he announced to the world that his son Zion came home one day and decided that he would no longer like to be referred to as a male. He wanted to be called Zaya, and he asked that they use feminine pronouns when addressing him. And Dwayne Wade very proudly stated that he admired the courage that his child has. He couldn't be more proud. And just was talking about how he and his wife Gabrielle Union were taking steps to really offer him the best support that they could. Um, in return, a lot of people, particularly within the black male community, had conflicting thoughts and some thoughts that were just hateful towards Dwayne Wade, towards Gabrielle Union. And today, what we're going to discuss is our feelings about all of this and some of the things, like I said, that really stood out to us. Um, I'm just going to start by asking you, what was your initial reaction?
So, number one, we have to put some context into this. The child is 12 years old, born in 2007, May 29, 2007. So, still a child, probably going through puberty, trying to understand herself. And I guess what is happening here, I don't agree with the vitriol that's online. I think that there's a lot of reasons why the vitriol is happening. Um, Mostly because, number one, uh, there are a lot of homophobic people out there. Let's keep it real.
Very true.
However, number one, I don't have any children, so I can't really speak on how people raise their children. However, I know that if I had a child who was um, going through what Zion Wade is going through, I would say that I would be, number one, out of my element. And I would have to do a lot of research. And I feel like, I would not probably want my kid who was going through changes in life to be taking like any type of hormones or anything that could kind of change the growth of the child. Maybe I would wait and tell them, hey, when you get to a certain age and you really understand what you're doing and what will happen to your body, then maybe you could start taking it maybe at an age of like 16, 17, 18. But at 12, I don't think that hormones is an issue at this moment, but I know that I would be kind of concerned medically to make sure that my kid was going to be okay, and I wouldn't want them to go out there and take anything that could mess up their body, especially when, as a kid, you don't have the best decision making abilities. Now, besides that, the vitriol is coming from homophobia. It's coming from people who are basically thinking, "Hey, 12 years old. When I was 12, I was thinking about baseball, or I was thinking about playing Barbies, or riding bikes with my friends. I wasn't concerned about, transitioning or having some type of sexuality at that age." So a lot of people feel like Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union are somehow bad parents or pushing this on their kid or indulging their kids every whim, and how some black people are, and I'll be honest, I'm black, so I feel like I could speak on this. Um, that they have a lot of opinions on how they raise the children, and so I guess that's what's happening, and it's kind of it's all sad, but it's also new territory. A lot of people, especially black men, put their hopes and dreams into some of these celebrities, some of these
Athletes.
athletes, some of these people. They feel like these are the gladiators, the creme de la creme of black society or some form of fashion. And when black people are not acting according to the standard that they set, or things that they set for
Expectations.
themselves, yeah, then they end up having a lot to say and almost take it personally, which I think that that's completely wrong. Why do these men care so much about this child in general? I mean, would they really care about their neighbor's child the way that they care about Zion Wade and Zaya being Zaya? I don't know. It just seems like the anger is misplaced and deep seated in some form of fashion, especially when you look at Twitter.
One thing that you said that I subtly disagree with, it's just is that at 12 years old where our focus lies. I think 12 years old is the point at which at which we start to experience ourselves as a sexual being. It's also the point at which we start to identify with certain traits. If you I At one point in my life was a school teacher, and I can say that by the time you're 12 years old, you are starting to take an interest in either being more feminine, being more masculine. You see guys, I remember my brothers at that age, they were just waiting for, if one hair popped out on their chin, that was a big deal. I know that a lot of girls at that time, they want to get their they start wanting to get their nails done. They might start, putting the mom's heels on and walking around and focusing on what it means to be cute. And the fact that he's 12 years old and he's starting to express this, I think is actually part of the normal development of an adolescent. It's just
Yeah.
that the thing that's jarring for people is that while your son who is not queer may want you to teach them how to shave even though they don't have any hair on their face, or they want to wear a certain shoe so that girls think they're cute, he's saying I want to wear acrylic nails and a halter top and I want to see if I can get my hair beat. There is really actually all he's doing is the same things that a 12, 13, 14-year-old girl would want to do at that same time. But people question it because it's not quote unquote normative. It's not that what he's doing is actually unusual, because if he was a cisgendered female and he wanted to get his nails done, like, if you let's be honest, and just this is a yes or no question. If you had a 12-year-old daughter and she wanted you to paint her nails and she wanted to wear a cute top and she started really wanting to wear heels, even though she's not wearing no heels out this house and she's not wearing makeup out this house, you would not be surprised if she took an interest in those things starting at around 12 or 13 years old.
Okay, but that's fine.
And that's true, right?
Well, that's fine. Playing dress up is a kid's thing,
But it's not just a kid's thing. Performing gender norms is something that we all do throughout the entirety of our lives. And kids do it at a very young age when they play. Adolescents start to really do it, and it starts to be attached to sexuality and gender in a much more explicit way. And then as adults we fall into something that we embrace, whatever that is. When a woman goes in and she beats her face and gets her hair done and puts on a tight dress and some heels and goes out and walks around a certain way trying to attract a certain type of attention, that is considered normal, right?
okay, yeah, that's fine. Whatever you're saying is fine in terms of normal. Me personally, at 12, it was a little different. I wasn't that way. I was interested still in kid like things,
I'm
but
not saying
you
you're.
know, so regardless of what Zion Wade is into, that's fine. I'm sure the parents observed Zion being effeminate for probably a very long time before he decided to say, hey, I'm going to I want to go by certain pronouns, etc., so on, and I need to be better at making sure that I use the right pronouns as well.
And I think
But
that I'm just going to say one thing to that point. That's about intentionality, not to interrupt you. A lot of people, I think, have this idea that if they don't say the right pronouns every time, that that's offensive. I think it's about the intentionality and the effort that you make to really identify a queer or transgender person the way they want to be. And if your intention is to do that, if you mess up here and there, I have so many friends that are queer, or I've had so many experiences and interactions with people that are transgendered. I can say that what I take from them is that as long as you're trying your best to acknowledge their truth, if you mess up here and there, that's not, I don't think that that's offensive.
okay, well, I mean, I don't know who's offended by what. I just know that I mess up, so I'm just gonna put a disclaimer out there. But I think that yes, I agree about the normal things that kids who are transitioning uh, into puberty and having the thoughts and and playing and you know having these uh, normal ideas of what it means to be a woman or a man.
Or to like a boy or like
But
a
I do feel
girl,
that
that's normal.
I do feel that it is a little bit not normal in terms of the transgender piece of it. So
When you say normal, what do you mean by not normal? When you say
I'm trying to explain. So I feel like um, number one, if for instance the kid is 2 years old, right, and the kid wants to play with dolls, and the kid is a boy,
that's normal.
okay. Some people don't feel that way. Some people would want to go ahead and push a truck in the kid's hand, right? So I don't know how this kid has been raised from day one, and evidently the kid is in a family that accepts them no matter what. So that's a good thing for the kid, and the kid evidently feels like coming out as transgendered at age 12 is something that and going on 13 is acceptable in that family, right? And um, so the kid has been playing a gender for a long time, possibly, but we don't know that. We don't know that. But I do know that it's not necessarily normal for a child going to puberty to change their gender, right? So hold on. So I do feel that I'm not, and I'm not transgender, so somebody in the comments section evidently educate me. But my point is I feel like um, that is a very conscious decision that this kid is making at a very young age. And all I'm saying is, what happens in 2, 3, 4 years possibly when the kid says, you know what, actually I don't want to be a female, possibly. Just say everybody has to change their way of dealing with the kid as well. And so my thing is why it's one thing to go ahead and get nails done, to wear halter tops, to do things that are girly, quote unquote girly. But it's another thing to claim, right, and live 100% as this other gender. And I don't believe that that is necessarily a normal thing, a normal progression. I think that if you were a boy, growing up as a boy, doing quote unquote boy things, um, you've kind of known for a while. So whatever is, I don't think this was an overnight thing. by any stretch of the imagination. I think that the parents know a lot more than any of us who are talking about it or complaining about it on social media. And I think that people just thought, oh, okay, I can wrap myself around understanding the sexuality, but not the gender situation. So people are saying, oh, Dwayne's got a gay son. And
But that's the thing. They don't know that he's gay. He could just be. You can be transgender, and he could still want to partner with a biological female.
Yeah, yeah.
And that part of it is
I think
probably
people don't
not.
understand that.
I think so. The thing that I fundamentally disagree with is I do believe that being transgender is normal, and the reason why I say that is because dating back thousands of years, you can see recorded instances of people that were transgender. And although transgender people don't appear to make up the majority of the human population, they're present in every sampling of humans that you find in any culture, anywhere in the world. And the other thing that is a really important that of what you said is that this child decided that I am raised in a way where it's acceptable for me to express to my father that I no longer want to be responded to as a male, that I want to change my name altogether, and I want to be seen as a woman or as a little girl or as a young girl, whatever he's 12. So as a young or she's 12, I just messed up myself. She's 12, I want to be seen this way. Think about it in these terms. That behavior of being transgender was not modeled for him in the home. And I can tell you how I know that for certain. His father is a public figure who we all know exactly what he did for a living. We all know that Dwayne Wade, as far as we know, is definitely someone who's interested in partnering with and being sexual with women. Dwayne Wade has also always carried himself as a strong, masculine guy, and he's not the most overly aggressive guy or dominant personality, but if his son who looks up to and respects him says I want to be like my father, then he would do exactly what his brother is doing, which is play basketball, try to follow in his father's footsteps. My insight into this, and I could be wrong, is that from very early on he knew that he was not like his father or his brother or most of the guys that were probably around him, because he was surrounded, because not only was he surrounded by men in his household who are pretty stereotypically male, but he was also encountering other men in his father's circle. His father's best friend is LeBron James, the picture of masculinity. He's got, I mean, all these dominant, hyper masculine, successful black men who represent all these ideals that black men aspire to. Basically, he had that modeled for him, and with all of that influence, he knew in himself, I am not like that. That's not who I want to be. I want to be more like my mom or more like whatever females were around him. And that is not abnormal. I think in most cases, especially with young black children, when the black children have that feeling inside of them and the parent can sniff it out, instead of embracing it, 9 times out of 10 they try to kill that impulse in their children. So we don't know how normal it is for a child to want to perform another gender. Because in most households, if your son says, I want to be a girl or I want to play with dolls, or let's use a really good example that's not necessarily from the black community, Aaron Hernandez. We just watched this documentary about him, and he told his father, I don't want to play football. I want to be a cheerleader. What did his father do? He responded like that's not happening in this household. So I would say for every one Zaya that there is, there might be another 5 who say I would rather wear these heels. Can I try your makeup on, mom? And the father and or the mother say, oh hell no, not in my house. So we can't get a good gauge on how normal Zaya is, because
I'm sorry,
9 times out of 10,
I don't believe that being 12 years old and transitioning in some form or
I'm
fashion
not saying,
is normal. I'm
but
sorry.
okay,
Maybe
so
I don't have the
let
statistics,
me let
but
me let's make a clarification here. There is a difference between transitioning your 12-year-old child from male to female, getting them testosterone or female hormones, having them undergo surgery. I personally am not a proponent for that for a 12-year-old. And you can bet that Dwayne Wade, his biological mother, and Gabrielle Union probably are on the same page with us with that. There will come a
I don't
time.
know. I
No, no,
mean,
no. There will come a time.
you never know.
There will come a time in Zaya's life where hopefully Zaya is older and more mature and can make the decision as to whether or not that's something that she wants to do. At this point, it is not problematic for me to embrace. Like, I don't find it problematic within me to embrace the idea of a child expressing the opposite gender that they were born in ways that are safe, healthy, and appropriate. I don't I can say for certain I would not allow my 12-year-old to undergo surgery, and I would also not allow my 12-year-old who's still growing, whose brain is still developing, whose all of their internal systems are still growing and developing, to undergo a major transitioning surgery. I would not do that at 12. Maybe, and I have to say I'm ignorant as to the health risks that may be involved. I can say emphatically that's not something that I personally would do. And I also am not getting from Dwayne Wade or Gabrielle Union that they're signing their child up to take hormones at this point. What they're saying is this is how our child identifies. We love we love her, we support her, and we are intend to protect her and provide a safe space for her to become the person she wants to be. And if 5 years from now Zaya decides instead I want to be Zion again, guess what? I don't have a problem with that either. But I think a lot of people for some reason have a problem with that too.
So there's some super ignorant stuff that's, I think that there's a lot of people, number one, that don't understand. Does the kid have like a gender dysphoria? Does the kid um, just quote unquote want to be a girl? Okay, that's fine. That's one thing. I think that a lot of people, especially the folks that seem to be on Twitter who are super upset about it, which I just don't understand why
They
they
feel
are
like
so
this
upset.
is abusive to a child for people to embrace anything that could be associated with
I don't know
homosexuality
what they feel. I feel
because a
like
child doesn't know who they really are yet. I get that idea. I hear that so often. I don't agree with that either, but anyway.
I think that the kid doesn't really know, and but that's where the best place to find out is within the loving arms and understanding of their family, But yeah, the vitriol is a little bit
And it's
misplaced.
unwarranted because the other thing too is that I want to say a couple of things. I know we're running a little bit short on time. There are a few things that I have to get to in this talk back. Um, Number one, I challenge the black community, specifically black men, to be more honest with themselves. I'm not talking about any far fetched ideas that we get based on our religiosity or based on the programming that we received as children from our own parents. I'm talking about what we can visually see with our own eyes. No one in this world, especially people who live in the Western world, and even people that don't live in the Western world, no one in this world can walk around claiming that they don't see gay people everywhere they go. Gay people are everywhere. Queer people are everywhere. Transgender people, unfortunately, are not nearly as visible because it's very hard for transgender people to get jobs. It's very hard for transgender people to get proper care, especially if you're black and poor. And black transgendered females are some of the most marginalized, oppressed, and brutalized and discarded group of people in the world. And I'm talking about African American men, biological men who've decided that what's best for them is that they live their lives as a female. We need to stop living in a fantasy world where we pretend like these people do not exist so that we can get to the point where we start addressing some of the really negative consequences of acting as though, number one, these people don't exist, they should not exist, and our ultimate agenda should be to root them out and fix them or ostracize them. I'm just going to state a few things that people need to understand. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people who are aged between 10 and 24. LGBT youth seriously contemplate suicide about 3 times the rate of heterosexual youth. They are 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide compared to heterosexual youth. So the reason why I'm putting this out here is because me and Sister Fate, we talk about these issues a lot. And one thing that I've learned as an adult is that young people whose parents do not accept them, who are queer, it never turns out well for them. And sometimes they turn it on themselves. In many cases, they also turn that rage, that sadness, that depression. They become a problem not only to themselves but also other people. The single most important thing that parents can do for their queer children, in my humble opinion, is to love them and accept them. Because if you don't, you're basically increasing the likelihood that your child contracts some type of disease that they can never be cured of, or that they end up hurting themselves or someone else. Is there something you want to add to that?
I'm reading from this article that I guess got everybody in a tizzy. Um, and Dwayne Wade is quoted as, "Me and my wife Gabrielle Union, we are proud parents of a child in the LGBTQ plus community, and we are proud allies as well. We take
Amen.
our roles and responsibility as parents very seriously. So when our child comes home with a question, when a child comes home with an issue, when a child comes home with anything, it's our job as parents to listen to that and to give them the best information that we can and to give them the best feedback we can. And it doesn't change because sexuality is now involved in it. Once Zaya came home, I know I don't know if everyone knows, she was originally named Zion, born as a boy, came home and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you guys. I think going forward, I'm ready to live my truth. I want to be referenced as she and her. I would love for you guys to call me Zaya." So he said that his job as their parent was to then go out and get information and reach out to every relationship we have. My wife reached out to everybody on the cast of Pose. We were just trying to figure out as much information as we can to make sure that we give our child the best opportunity to be her best self. So, you know, the fact that, number one, there are kids out there that are going through the experience. The kid can go online and find out the stories of these people. I think that the kid being rich,
Yeah, that's the
uh,
financial part of it is significant.
and having resources that, and the freedom to be who they are, um, without a lot of vitriol from their own community and their own neighbors possibly, because the let's keep it real, the money is a barrier.
It's a protection.
It's a moat around a castle that lets people know that, hey, we're gonna survive regardless what you think.
And let's also keep it real. If Zaya was poor, Zaya would have to figure out how to be transgender and still get a job, how to navigate the world and survive in the world with being perceived as different, having people have a lot of fear, having people have this rage that's inspired. For some reason, transgender people can inspire rage in certain really crazy people. The threat to her life, because people, a lot of transgendered women are preyed upon sexually. People are violent towards a
They
lot
might
of
have to be kicked out, have to go to work in the streets or do something.
so the fear that a poor parent might have, how can, because parents ultimately just want to protect their children, right? I agree. I think a good parent that loves their child just wants to see that their child is safe, that they thrive, and that they're raising a child that can be independent and take care of themselves. That extra layer for a poor person is very different than the situation Zaya's in, because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to say Zaya will go on to do amazing things. I don't doubt that. And I'm sure that Zaya will ultimately, as an adult, carve out a life and a lane for herself that works and that allows her to be independent and have her own. But being born into a family where your father's worth nine figures definitely changes the landscape a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of the people who are complaining on Twitter are coming from a position where if they had done that themselves, or if their child was transitioning in some form or fashion, and they live where they live today, which could be the projects, could be
Even
a
if you're
very
middle class, even if you're just a basic middle class family.
I think that they would they have a different perspective on things, and they're too busy worried about their own how people will look at them.
There's also uncertainty. Like we already, if you're poor, middle class, or even upper middle class, there is a level of uncertainty in many cases about how life is going to turn out for your children, especially for black folks. So for your child to say, I'm gay, I'm transgender, that just amplifies the fear you might have and the uncertainty you might have that your child is going to be okay. So most people have this reaction like, I need to change this, because if I've heard this so often, parents say, it's not that I can't accept that my child is gay. I'm just so terrified that their life is going to be so much more challenging as a result. And the fact of the matter is, and we cannot deny this, for people that do not have the means and the resources that um, Dwayne Wade is able to provide to his child, that level of fear is very real, and it's appropriate. So we can't. I'm not. I am chastising people who have this really negative response to the situation, but I also have to acknowledge that the fear that's driving those responses, that fear is legitimate. It is legitimate because it is rooted in the very real fact of how many obstacles, challenges, and difficulties a lot of gay and especially transgendered black females face in the world that we live in. And that's real. But we've gone pretty long. I just want to wrap this up. Do you have any last words before I wrap it up?
I think that as for folks who are online, kind of feeling like it's some type of a gay agenda that is being pushed, and they're trying to feminize black men. Um, I think that Dwayne Wade has a platform. He's using it, and ultimately, that platform is going to help a lot of kids, especially black kids.
Amen.
And understand that, number one, we've seen just with the Kobe passing, and all those families passing, we've seen a lot of black men crying on TV, and no one has questioned their masculinity. But for some reason, all of a sudden, people are questioning Dwayne Wade, or questioning their parenting skills, or questioning the fact that they feel like there's a lot of images of men, black men, um, being effeminate or being feminine. They get upset at Billy Porter in a dress. I mean, it, to me, it just shows how insecure a lot of these people are online. A lot of hive mind situation where they feel like they have no statistics, they have no kind of basis in it, but for some reason they want to go ahead and say that Dwayne Wade's son is, or daughter is somehow bringing down the black male in some form or fashion. I think that people need to stop internalizing it as much. They need to just understand that, hey, this is just a kid going through some changes, and even though I still feel that it's not normal changes, it's normal for Zaya. So you know
Amen.
what? I'm going to, I don't not sleep well at night when it comes down, to whether or not Zaya is a male or a female. I don't. It doesn't really kind of matter to me. I feel that all I can do is be supportive, or if I'm not supportive, don't say anything at all. That's how I feel. But there's a lot of people online who seem to be taking it to heart, and I would just say to them, you need to at your own
Look within.
look within, look at your own situation, and really understand where your anger is coming from. If you are embarrassed, or if you've had some type of sexual experience that you didn't know you would ever have, or if you liked the sexual experience that you had, it's okay. Get some counseling, figure things out, go talk to somebody. I think that anger online or even in person is not appropriate response, especially
Especially
when
when
it's
directed
about
at a
12.
child.
Yeah, when it's a 12-year-old kid, or if you want to direct it to the parents, um, you know, get your house in order, get your shoes on straight, and then we'll talk. Pun intended. Then we'll talk. If you want to go ahead and chastise Gabrielle Union or Dwayne Wade or whoever else. Um, I think that people are coming from so many angles, and it's really sad to see the black community feel so much about this. I mean, at the end of the day, we put our faith and our livelihood almost in these celebrities way too much. Just worry about your own. Look in the mirror. Take care of your own kids, and you won't have to worry about quote unquote a black gay agenda or whatever the agenda might be, because everybody's got agenda, and if you have power, there's going to be some type of agenda in some type of way. You raise your children the way you raise them, and I think that because of the homophobia, because of the religious aspect of the black community, and a whole bunch of other things. I think that this is the reason why there's so much people angry, but they need to look within. I think that's what I take from it.
So thank you for that, and thank you again for joining me in this talk back. I'm just gonna wrap things up. My final thoughts. The first thing I just want to say is I applaud Dwayne Wade, Gabrielle Union, Zaire Wade, and Zaya Wade for their courage in addressing something so personal publicly in this way. Initially, I was wondering whether or not that was the best move on their part because Zaya is so young, but I actually feel like the visibility that Zaya has and that the Wade family has in how they're handling all of this may be a healing for someone or may help families that are going through the exact same thing who may feel lost in all of this. And I also just want to say one more thing because this is something that's very important to me. Um, it's really high time that we as black folks embrace our queer brothers and sisters. We know that they're not going anywhere. We know that they're such a valuable part of our community, our churches, our organizations. The contribution of gay and lesbian, transgendered, bisexual, queer people to our history is so overwhelmingly significant. And I just want to say one last thing. There's so much I could say, but this is something that I've been saying a lot in conversation. It is possible to be a strong, dynamic, intelligent black man and be gay at the same time. It's also no slight against a person's character, power, integrity, and ability for them to be transgendered. We can embody all of these amazing qualities that folks emulate and idolize and be gay at the same time. So it's not a sign of weakness in a man to be gay, and it's also not a sign of weakness in a man to say, I don't want to perform this stereotypical or atypical, or typical gender. So we've got to get past it. We have to open up our minds and we have to understand that this is something that is normal. And I'm just going to say it over and over again. It is normal. As long as people exist and they're living their lives and we keep seeing it over and over and over again throughout history, it is normal. And we need to embrace our queer families, our queer friends, our queer community, and we need to support our children, and we don't need to ostracize them. We don't need to try to kill that part of them, because a lot of times when we do, it just leads to absolute disaster. So those are my thoughts. I appreciate everyone that's listening to this talk back. I'm sure we'll get some really interesting feedback. I'm just telling you right now, if it's hateful, you're basically getting deleted or blocked. But we love you guys, and we look forward to talking to you again.
So long. Deuces.
Peace.